Hello, hello, and welcome back. All right, guys, so we are looking at our homework for tonight, January 9th, our first homework of 2019. First of all, I'm going to remind you, please, 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 put your name. We are going to grade this in class tomorrow, and you're going to turn it in. If your name is not on it, guess what? You don't get a grade. So please, please, please put your name. Now, we're looking at solving and then graphing the solution to these equations. Now, I feel like you can take care of 5.5x is equal to 22. I want to look down here at our fraction problem because we have two different fractions. We have 2 3/4 and 8 15/20. Now, first of all, I need to draw my line. And the operation that's happening first, what operation? We're adding 2 3/4. So the opposite of adding 2 3/4 is going to be subtracting 2 3/4. Okay, we have to take a different denominator away from one another. So we're not going to say 20 minus 4, right? We need to make sure that these two fractions have a common denominator. So here's what I'm going to tell you. You need to popcorn it. Remember, take 2, multiply it by 4, add 3. So 2 times 4 gives you what? 8. 8 plus 3, 9, 10, 11. So this is actually 11 over 4. So if we look over here, we've got 8 times 20. Now you're probably going to have to come over here and say 20 times 8, 0, 8 times 2 is 16. So that's 160 plus 15, 0 plus 5, 6 plus 1. End up with 175 over 20. So we actually have G plus 11 over 4 is equal to 175 over 20. But we're going to subtract 11/4 from itself because we need to subtract the opposite. We need to subtract 11/4 over here as well. If I write down 175 over 20 minus 11 over 4. Can I do this problem? No, because they have different denominators. And when you're subtracting fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Well, I'm looking here, I see 20. I know 4 times 5 gives me 20. So if I multiply over here, 4 times 5 and 11 times 5, what I actually have is 175 over 20 minus 55 over 20. So now I have a lot easier problem to work with. I just subtract across. So 175 minus 55, 5 minus 5, 0. 7 minus 5 is 2, and we just bring down our 1. So I have 120 over 20. Well, because we know that this fraction is also a ratio, we know that this line here just means to divide. So what we actually do to find our answer is 120 divided by 20. Now 20 does not go into 12, so we're going to have to take a good estimate and say, I think that I can multiply 20 times 6. Let's see that. 6 times 0 gives me 0. 6 times 2 gives me 12, and I get 120. So how many times does 20 go into 120? Well, 6 times. So this is really messy, but all we did was we just subtracted 175 over 20 minus our 2 3/4. So we've got G all by itself is equal to 6. So G equals 6. Now here's the deal. If you were looking for a much easier way to look at this, we could have started by looking at 15 over 20 and figuring out, okay, can I turn that into a number with a 4 on the bottom? Well, if I divide 20 by 5, 20 divided by 5, I end up with 4. And 15 divided by 5 gives me 3. Well, looky there. Now I have 2 3/4 and 8 3/4. I can say 8 3/4 minus 2 3/4. We know that's going to give us 6. Or 6 plus 2 gives us 8 3/4. And that's how we know that's the right answer. All right, so G is equal to 6. Well, how do we graph that? If we're looking at our number line, there's no numbers on our number line right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just label one of these 0. So I could have chosen to put 0 over here. I could have put 0 over here. All I know is that I need to have a 0 somewhere on this line. I'm gonna go ahead and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could have just done 2, 4, 6. If that's how you want to do it that way. As long as you can show a closed circle above the number 6, labeled clearly on that line, you just graphed your solution. All right, guys, I have no doubt that you can make sure to do your 1, 2s over here. Think about the operation that's happening here. There's no sign, so what does that mean? Do the opposite. What's the opposite? And do that, and make sure to keep the balance and draw your line. Also, graph your solution. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. I have absolute faith you can totally do this, and if you have any questions, I will be here tomorrow for tutoring. Bye.